I used to work a lot with mentally ill people, and I think more than the picture, I mean, that picture, actually, you could make that picture and you could probably, if you didn't know the context of it, it would probably make a very interesting ad picture. The face looks ridiculous. It's what really makes you realize that this person is mentally unbalanced is the fact that this is a mug shot for somebody who's facing potentially the death penalty in a state that's rather merciless. This is somebody who just killed somebody, including a child, and knows that. And this is the mug shot they're taking. And it's that affective disconnection that's really striking in the picture. I mean, you come to the picture, the fact you know it's a mug shot, and the affective disconnection. The problem I have, though, is there are always been schizophrenics. We had schizophrenics, and since schizophrenia is, distributed throughout the population, there are schizophrenics all over the nation. There's schizophrenics who grow up in all kinds of political homes, live in all kinds of political environments. There's schizophrenics all over the world. And one of the things that I would keep repeating is that it takes an insane man to act or be influenced upon insane ideals. And one of the things I think where we never seem to stop to think about the fact that Al-Qaeda is probably exploiting or influencing men and women as well who also have mental insanity or mental problems. We don't stop to look at the recent army shooting, which turned out to be a Muslim who was influenced by jihadist movements. From what I've seen of him, he was probably mentally ill as well. Certain people from certain cultural backgrounds become evaluated upon their religion and their heritage. Other ones, particularly if they look like us, come from our background, they become issues of mental illness. And being on Twitter, what I've noted amongst the Arabs that I follow on Twitter, a lot of them are asking, how come this guy isn't being called a terrorist? How come he's not a terrorist? Of course he's a terrorist. He might be crazy, but he's still a terrorist. He took a gun and he went to shoot and kill a political leader. He posted things about bringing the government down. He might be mentally ill, but he's still a terrorist. There may have been people on the 9/11 planes, maybe most of them, maybe all of them, who could be diagnosed as mentally ill. In fact, I would imagine blowing yourself up for a political cause would probably indicate you are mentally ill to begin with. I mean, there are certain crimes that sane people don't do. 9/11 was not the act of a sane person, period. But, why is it that we looking at the foreheads, looking at the shapes, looking at the eyes of certain people who are mentally ill? I mean, even in this photo, too, with this context, this mugshot is released. I mean, the police who arrested him, you don't know what was said to him before he took the photo shot, what discussion was being made to him, what was going on. But the picture sort of gives the message out, oh, this guy's just crazy. Don't stop and worry about gun access. Don't stop and worry about the fact that a man who couldn't get in the Army for a drug test, had been kicked out of community college for behavioral problems, could go into a shop and buy bullets. I mean, the picture is a piece of effective propaganda that people are running over and over again saying, we don't have to worry about our social problems here in America because all these gun shootings, which now only hold America, and I'm shocked because when Columbine happened, we didn't speak about anything else at work for weeks and weeks and weeks. Now, shooting a day or two, at the most, a day or two, This shooting, nobody's going to be talking about this in a week. So, I think maybe we should give up talking about certainly he was mentally ill, but, America has a nuts shooting people problem as a society, okay? France has mentally ill people. I mean, Ireland has enormously high levels of mental illness. you don't have this level of kinds of shootings which are going on constantly in the States. It's also the issue of a lot of what we call terrorism, whether we decide to call it terrorism or call it mental illness. What we have is isolated individuals for various reasons being influenced by a number of very vitriolic ideologies that give them a purpose and drive them to mental illness. Things that are like, you saw this in Taxi Driver. I mean, Taxi Driver and Scorsese is probably the deepest reflection on that. And we really need to think about the fact that this is really a sociological issue. This wasn't happening so much 20 or 30 years ago. 10 years ago, we would be shocked if something like this happened for months and months and months. Something has changed. Something has changed, and it isn't that there's more mentally ill people. In fact, if anything, treatment for mental illness has improved vastly. There's much better medicine. There's actually medications to deal with schizophrenia, medications to deal with manic depression that there wasn't 20 years ago, and yet these shootings are happening. What is it? What are the sociological issues? Instead, we sit in, if he's a Muslim, it's terrorism. Islam is to blame. If he's a white person, some people might say it was the Tea Party, but there's going to be a definite drive to write this whole thing off as mental illness. And this just goes on and on and on. Every shooting, target, that Muslim fanatic, Americans aren't Muslim, nothing we can do. An American does it, mentally ill, they do. How has this emerged? Why is it happening? And how come it's happening in the United States and not happening, say, in Canada, where they have guns and mental illness? Why is it not happening in Switzerland, where there are guns and mental illness? Why?